share, so give it a shot, Miles. Let's go. No audio, Miles. Still no audio.
Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Go ahead and stop sharing there, Miles. I think we still got some technical difficulties. That didn't sound like John Wayne. Maybe that's what John sounds like these days. I'm not sure. So, Miles, do you think that's going to affect the rest of your stuff, or should we have Daryl try to start them?
No, it should be all right. I don't know why the audio wouldn't. Can you hear me now?
I got you. Yeah, there was just lots of feedback on it, and I'm getting. You're not signed in on two devices, are you?
No.
Why? We always get that feedback with you. Okay, well, go ahead and mute for a second, Miles. When you come up, then you can unmute. New guest. Tell you what, I got another one of those calls out of the blue this week from a guy. I got to get a hold of him. All I got was a cryptic voicemail that said, "Hi, this is Matt. I'm looking into flying airplanes." As Denny always does, whenever we get somebody that calls, we first get their $25 and then we divulge information. So we might have a new member there. And I mentioned you might see George Dowdy on the screen here. I don't know where he moved to. He was on here a second ago. Oh, there he is. Yeah, down there in the middle. So George came by and talked to Denny and I the other day. It was pretty good timing because Denny was taxiing one of the high school build RB-12s up to my hangar where George was visiting. George is a teacher in the Porter School District, and he's starting an RB-12 build project as well. Different funding model, but nevertheless, he's going to start that project. So George, you'll see during the program if you haven't seen it before. I think you've been a member since the last real meeting we had. You joined us, so you're really not officially a new member, but we'd like to see project updates from you on that. Okay, if you've let me look on here and see what else we get. Is there any other new members that we have? Because we don't have Bob on here. Denny, are you acting as Bob Humes today?
I'm sorry, I didn't get that assignment.
Then you're not. Then you're not. Okay. I guess we're going to have to live through all the flipping on the screen here. Not a problem. Two other words of note then, since I don't have any other new members. We do have a couple personnel and a couple of members that have some medical ailments. First of all, I just want to mention that James Help lost his wife last month. The chapter donated a spray of flowers to the memorial service that was held. And James reached out to say thanks to the chapter. Bill Donahoe took care of that for us. So, Denny, I told him to call you because he wanted to give an official thanks. And maybe whatever text he sends you, we can include in the next newsletter because you graciously included the obit in the newsletter for this year.
He already did that, so I've got it.
Yeah, exactly. Also, Jerry Farrick texted me 2 days ago with news about George Goff, another one of our members, who suffered a severe stroke. I guess it was on Thursday. Jerry, do you have any further information on George? You're going to have to unmute yourself. Jerry, yeah, we're not hearing you talking.
How about now?
There you go. We got you now. Go ahead.
Last I heard from his wife yesterday, he was still in the hospital. He may come home Monday. but he doesn't remember anything. Can't remember his kid's name. Can't remember his wife's name. Anything about anything, truthfully, and they're kind of worried about him. So.
Okay, we'll keep him in our thoughts and prayers. And then I know Dave McDonald, your wife's been having some issues too, so hope she's doing well. So we've got quite a few members that have challenges outside the aviation world. We like to keep them all in our thoughts. And if you find out any information about any of our members, pass it on so we can at least let everybody else know, because there's I think the biggest benefit of our chapter is we've got members out there that can potentially help each other as long as we know about it. So anyway, let's keep each other in mind for those issues. Any other? Does anybody else know of anyone that we may need to reach out to, since we're kind of distanced these days? Okay, well, we'll just let it go that if you think of some or hear of some, you can get a hold of me, and I'll pass it on to whoever might be helpful in that respect. So the treasurer's report: Bill Donahoe is up slaying fish in Alaska. So he doesn't have an update, but he did post it on the newsletter, and we got the email. But Don Geis has kind of taken over for the treasurer. And so the one money thing that I think Don wanted to mention to us was the 50-50 giveaway. Don, do you have something for us on that?
Right. The 50-50 giveaway is still active, is still a source of funding for us. The way we're working it in the new world is that, when you go out to the website and purchase under the donations, if you buy $5, then you get one slot. If you buy $10, you get two slots. And what we do is we take these. So the first person to buy becomes number one. The second person becomes number two, etc. And then at the end, we go out into the computer and pull out a random number generator, and it tells us, in the order of, how many numbers we've got. Say we have 30 participants. It'll spit out a number, and we just go to that number, numerical order of who purchased what, and that becomes the winner. But it's still out there and active, and we only have, so far this morning, 22 participants. So it'll be open for at least another 15 or 20 minutes.
Okay, Don, and pass the word on to those people that don't know. It's listed under general donation. It doesn't say anything about raffle, 50-50 giveaway, or anything like that. So it's the general donation that becomes part of it.
Yeah, that kept causing problems for us with PayPal in terms of how they would handle it and whether they would let us have the money unless we delivered merchandise. So we had to change that the name on the site to a donation.
Well, that's because we've been running this illegal raffle for how many years now? We might as well pull up the bingo machine.
It is a donation. It is a donation to the furtherance of our cause.
Yeah. Some noble people have actually redonated it back. All right. Miles, do you have that? Let's give that video another chance here. Safety minute. It teaches how to do safety wire. Who was telling me just the other day?
I'm here today at College of Applied Technology Aviation Campus in Memphis, Tennessee, to talk about safety wiring. These are safety wire pliers, and they're used by mechanics to assure that the bolts in our aircraft are safety wired properly. So what do we look for when we pre-flight our aircraft in regards to safety wire? We'll talk about that on 57 Seconds to Safer Flying. Safety wire is used to keep a bolt from backing out due to vibration. May 2018. A Cirrus crash lands just after takeoff in Texas. The pilot survived to tell investigators that he was having an uncontrollable left roll. Inspection of the wreckage revealed that the left aileron actuator arm and attach bolt were missing. The remaining actuator bolt was missing its required safety wire. This bolt is easily visible during a pre-flight walk-around inspection. This is a separated aileron cable from a Bonanza. The safety wire held firm and the pilot didn't even know he had a problem. Learn to tell the difference between a good safety wire job and a poor one. Lock nuts, castle nuts, turnbuckles, and cotter pins all help hold your airplane together. A Glass Air crash landed in Arizona 30 minutes into the flight after the engine lost power. It turns out the cotter pin, connecting bolt, washers, and castellated nut were missing from the linkage to the throttle arm. It's not always easy checking them all, so learn by doing a walk around with your mechanic. So get familiar with where the safety wire is on your aircraft and make that part of your pre-flight inspection. For the FAA safety team, I'm Phil Dixon.
That's actually a pretty good series of videos that the FAA is putting out there, and it's nice that they can keep it within 1 minute. Scary part is there's so many places to leave that out that you want to get somebody else to check your airplane as well as you. So moving on, then we've got a program here, the Ferry Firefly, that Miles is he manages to find all kind of good stuff. Oh, congratulations! I'm sorry. Let's do the congratulations first. And Denny, talk about what else you're going to do with this young lady, so that the continuation of aviation education, I guess you could put it. Can you blow that up for us, Miles?
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Denny. We can't see the picture very well, Miles. If we could make that a little bit bigger.
Well, while he works on that, I've been kind of following along Ashley. I don't see Joe Christian on this morning, but that's his daughter. When we started this, she was only 14. That was it was over 5 years ago. She took her first Young Eagle ride. I've kind of followed her through as well. She's gotten her private, and she did her private and her instrument together. She's worked her way through multi-engine. She got her CFI. And now, as of yesterday, she passed her CFII rating. I am also 2 years out and ready for my flight review. And so I am in contact with Ashley. As soon as she gets home, she will fly my flight review. We think this is a pretty neat progress, and we're going to turn it into the EAA as well and see if we can get a little publicity from the magazine. So I'll let you know. You can't flunk a flight review, by the way, but I'll probably make a good attempt at it. So.
Yeah, I was going to make that. I think that's a great story, though, and EA is going to love that. To see that thing come full circle on that. That's a great progress report, if you will. And a good congratulations for Ashley. She's really been working hard at this. So I believe, Denny, didn't you tell me that she's got herself a job there at Conroe as a flight instructor, working with the our college program?
Yeah, the Lone Star Community College, of which you are, I believe, on the board of directors. Is that not true?
That had nothing to do with it. No, not a board of directors at all. I don't know. I get to hear about their meetings, and that's about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, watch her go. She's in full swing now to continue toward a professional career.
That's excellent. Okay. Let's go ahead and hit the program now, Miles. Captain Eddie's Firefly. Interesting.
Behind me is a Ferry Firefly AS6. Like, I saw this article about the Canadian airplane. 74. And I still remember the caption under the picture. It said 6 tons, 2 men, and a Griffin. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And so who would ever know that 20 years later, I would have it. This aircraft was designed as a long-range fighter. Guy in the back, he's not a gunner. He's not a torpedo guy. He is the navigator and ran a radar. So you see the 2 pods that are out on the wings. One of those pods was a radar, and the other was a fuel tank. In this configuration, the way it's been restored, both of them are fuel tanks because we restored it as a ground attack aircraft. And people say, well, what about the stripes? Why are the stripes on it? Those are not D-Day stripes, per se, because the aircraft didn't fly D-Day. But the aircraft was painted with these invasion stripes in Korea because communists were operating Yaks, which were propeller airplanes, and they did not want the jets to shoot this thing down. And the way this aircraft is restored, as you see it in this paint configuration, is this exact aircraft was operated in Korea as a ground attack aircraft. Carried two 1,000-pound bombs, or could carry 16 60-pound warhead rockets. And same thing with maneuvering. It's the only Allied aircraft outmaneuvered zero after World War II. It's got a set of what are called Fairey-Youngman flaps. Flaps drop down, and they extend out beyond the wing, and they're basically parallel to the wing, so it looks like a biplane. So, and it's a tank. I mean, you look at it, it's a pretty strong airplane. When you figure out what it takes to do this, it is just, I mean, it's pretty mind-boggling. They sold this aircraft at auction. A town in Australia called Griffith, New South Wales, bought the aircraft for $400. And then they had somebody donate the fuel. They flew the airplane to Griffith, and they put it up on a pole in front of the RSL Club, which is the same as like the VFW here in the U.S. Basically, what you see here is a 45,000 man-hour restoration, and as many as 10 people work like full-time for 8 years. It's a slave job. I mean, it really is. I mean, for me to get ready to fly, you know, I had to clock all my hours, and I basically expend about 40 hours of my time for every flight hour. When these aircraft were in service, 100 people took care of 3 of them. So I keep waiting for the other 32 guys to show up. They haven't got it. Like all the nuts and bolts, the hardware, everything. It's not metric. It's not AN. It's all British stuff. So it's BSW, BSF, and the thread pitches are different on all the screws. The countersinks are different on all the screws, and you can't mix any of this stuff up. And so trying to find it, you know, a handful of screws like this is like $1,500. And so, like I said, the airplane belongs to everybody, all you guys. This is your machine. It's a privilege to have, if it can only talk.
I can't imagine the challenge of having to build something that, what does he have to make his own screws too? I mean, good Lord. Okay. That's a hell of a deal. Miles, somehow the audio is not making it with the video. I'm not sure why that's kind of chopping up like that. Is that just me? Okay. Ernie's shaking his head now. Hopefully this will be the last meeting like this we got to have. We can actually meet in person, maybe in September. We're hoping for that. But we're going to have project updates now. And probably just better go with what you've got in order there, Miles. I've got quite a few projects listed here. And if you miss one, we'll just cherry pick the people out of the crowd and hear about them. What do you have lined up?
I think we got Jim's up first. Give me a second. We'll get them loaded up here.
Okay, I'll mention some projects probably nobody knows about yet because they're not out there yet. But Jim Parker, one of our members, notified me that somehow his brother-in-law, or maybe some relation, lived next door to an elderly fellow with some land, and he ended up buying the land in an estate sale, and lo and behold, one of those barn find airplanes. So they've got a J3 Cub, 2 Vagabonds, and a Clipper. So it looks like there may be some projects coming available. They're actually in the Houston area. We'll see how that goes. So Don Brewer is already on the J3 Cub. He's trying to see if he can find that out, and we'll hear more about it. If you know anybody that might want a Clipper or Vagabonds that's in parts, you can get a hold of me or Jim Parker, either one. Next, it looks like Miles has loaded up 2 sets of pictures. These are just pages from the newsletter. Brent and I'll let Brent talk about his if he wants to, but we both went to and used the facilities of the same paint shop, and both got our airplanes back within the last month. And I'm still working on mine, doing some interior work. but it's coming along. Brent, you want to tell us anything about your airplane? You're still muted, Brent.
Okay, yeah, I was going to submit some pictures, but Denny did such a good job on the newsletter, I didn't really feel the need to. That's, by the way, Denny, send me copies of those pictures if you would. I'll correct one thing in the newsletter. I have a Hyundai, not a Kia, but that's a pretty minor point. Yeah, Evoke Aviation did the paint jobs for both airplanes and also did the design work for the paint scheme, and they did a nice job on both airplanes, I thought.
Yeah, they certainly did. Just a little note of interest. You can leave that up for a second, Miles, because I wanted to point out the picture on the bottom right that you can see a green line going out of some clouds and around them. So the way I got over there was Jimmy Crawford and I flew my RV-8 over. I checked Jimmy out in the airplane that week, but that was a dual checkout. And coming home was the first time Jimmy had flown my airplane solo. We landed in Alexandria, Louisiana for gas because we had to deviate a lot, and strong headwinds and deviations forced us to do a fuel stop. And you can see it was kind of in between two little areas there, so that was the airport that we picked. I landed with 7 knots of headwind. Jimmy's on final for the same runway, and it shifted to a 30-knot tailwind. So on his first solo landing of my airplane, he did a wind shear go around. Good call. Luckily, he was able to change runways and go just the opposite of what I had landed on 3 minutes prior, and landed with a 30-knot headwind. And he said they land really good when there's no ground speed. So we got in, got the gas. The little gust front blew through. Nothing but black skies to the north, and I'm thinking, okay, it's either take my chance with bumps in the air or wait till the hail beats the heck out of a brand new paint job. So we launched for the only clear blue spot in the air, and you can see it was a kind of a southeast heading going through that same gust front. Once we got on the outside, it was nice, smooth sailing. But anyway, kudos to Jimmy for being able to keep my other airplane in the air. All right, Miles. Who else do we have? Jim Morricle? Why don't you lead us in this discussion?
Sure. I'm building the Carbon Cub EX, and I'm using the Stitz polyfiber system for cover, and that's where I am right now. Last month I was, this is where we ended. I had just laid the fabric over the top of the wing and was beginning to cut and shape it. Next picture. This is the top fabric, and we're looking at the wing root and at the fuel tank bays. I have 2 tanks in each wing, and you cover it with fabric and then cut away the fabric to expose the tanks. There'll be an aluminum cover over these tanks. But what I wanted to show in the previous picture was just one technique. You can see with the yellow glove there, I'm using a cloth with MEK. Before I laid over the fabric, I put down 2 pieces of masking tape and put a glue line across this area where I needed to have glue. The glue dried, and then once the fabric is in place, and I've done the first shrink at 250 degrees to stabilize the fabric and get it in the approximate position it'll actually end up in, I use MEK to activate this dried glue line. And then I'm able, and that secures the fabric as necessary, and then I'm able to cut out this big section where the fuel tank is. That's just one technique that I thought was might be interesting to you. Next. So just use the scissors and cut out the fuel tank, and then glue it around the edges to secure the fabric. Next. Once the fabric is in place and you've shrunk it, there are various fittings that need to be punched through the fabric, and this is a technique where you just use a small soldering iron, and you literally melt the fabric, and it pops down over the fitting. This is a fitting on the top of the wing where the aileron wire cable will come out and connect to the aileron. Next picture. once the fabric is on and I've shrunk it to done both of the shrinks, one at 250 degrees for the initial shrink, and then the final shrink at 350 degrees. The next step is to place reinforcing tapes over the ribs. I have chosen to use rivets instead of the traditional rib lacing or rib stitching. So you use the same reinforcing tapes, but you are punching a rivet through the fabric into the rib. In the picture on the left, you can see the reinforcing tapes. They're just it's a sticky-sided, one-sided has stickiness to it, and you just lay it over the rib. I put a bright light underneath so I could see the holes that are punched in the ribs for the rivets. And on the right side, I'm just using a solder iron to burn a hole in the fabric where the rivet will be installed. Next. Here's a rivet just to give you an idea of the size of the rivet being pushed in a hole, and then using my rivet gun to install the rivets. Next. Once the rivets are installed, you need to lay out the plan for polybrush, and so that's what I'm using here. Just a template to lay out a 2-inch mark over the top of each of the ribs. Next. So the next step after the rivets are all installed is to brush on polybrush, and here just showing the beginnings of that. Polybrush is a vinyl product which seals the fabric and also bonds layers of fabrics together. It's almost like a glue, functions like a glue, and provides extra stability and strength. But 2 coats of poly brush are laid out over the ribs as shown here. And then once the 2 coats are on, we put a finishing tape over the top of each of these ribs. Next picture. Here's a example of the finishing tapes over the trailing edge or the aileron bay. The tapes in this case are 2-inch tapes, and you just brush them on with a wet coat of poly brush. The picture on the right is the next step. You may not be able to see it, but there are several clear plastic rings there. Those are inspection grommets that are positioned in various places that you need access to later to connect cables or wiring, and also to give access for inspections later. Next. This is the top of the wing, and on the left side is where the aileron cable will come through the top of the wing and connect to the aileron. I would call it a walking beam. I'm not sure what the correct term is for it, but this was just a way I was able to align it and lay it out properly so that I could glue this grommet in place and finish that part of the project. On the right side is the wing is almost completely finished, but that 3-inch tape you see there is a glue seam under there, and that's where the top fabric and the bottom of the wing fabric are glued in a 1.5-inch glue seam. And over the top of that, you put a finishing tape to add another layer of security for that particular glue seam. So this is just showing how that's laid out, and you just brush polybrush over it, and it's glued in place. Next. A couple other finishing things on the left is the landing light, and just cut out that section of fabric that's there and glue it back in place. So this is where I am now. I'm starting on the second wing. It's got the top cover on it, but I've not got it all glued down quite yet, but I am working on the second wing. So I'm making good progress. That's the update for this month.
Hey, those are great pictures. Thanks, Jim. So on the tank, you cut the hole in it. What gets covered up there? Is that aluminum cover?
Yeah, it's just a aluminum sheet that goes over the tank on both wings as the project is finished.
Sounds great. Okay, thanks. And again, it's a nice, clean-looking project. So you're doing a great job just keeping it clean. Ernie Brown has got some stuff. Looks like the back end of an airplane. What's going on, Ernie?
Yep, we're working section 9 on the RV-14, working on the elevators. Been just making steady progress. On the left there, just to kind of show off my big board for dimpling with it. I just went with a simple C-frame for that. And then on the right is, those are the parts that I found that I didn't do during our, what we call priming day for spray. So I got to a point in the plans, it's like, I need these nut plate doublers. I don't remember seeing those. So those have now brushed on primer wash. So we're doing that P60 G2. It's not real pretty, but it just makes me feel better knowing we'll have the anti-corrosion. We can advance. And then there we go, just showing off, we're doing the rear spar on the left aileron there. And that's the special bucking bar that they want you to fabricate. And if you read my log, I can't imagine trying to make that thing myself. So that was probably a really good purchase. And then the other part of that is doing when we're putting the skins together, they talk about how tight those pop rivets are in there. And that was a good 2 hours of busting knuckles. But we successfully got those without any of them back out on that first pull. So we're pretty happy with that. And next. And then the last thing I did we're actually sitting up in Colorado. My first experience dealing with the tank sealant, putting in the foam ribs and the back edges. Those are the ribs. I'm glad we're going to do the quick build option on the fuselage and the wings. I can't imagine having to deal with that sealing fuel tanks myself. So right now is you got the next 2 pictures are just the overall view of what the elevators will look like right now. So when we get back home next week, we'll finish up the leading edges and then move on to the tail cone, section 10, and looking to order the quick build kits probably in about a month and a half, 2 months. And then still going to be working the garage for a while. The daughter just bought a townhouse, so I'll be able to throw my completed parts in her garage for a little bit. The only thing, 2 things, Jim, thanks for the updates. Your work is incredible. So I enjoy watching those every month. The other thing is I don't have anybody that I've asked to be an advisor for me for a second set of eyes. So we're kind of getting into this project pretty well without somebody else looking at our work. So if anybody's interested in that, we'll be shopping around for somebody to come out and look at our stuff. That's all we got for now.
Hey, thanks, Ernie. We'll save some of this heat down here for you. You're not going to escape it all, believe me. Good progress on that. And what is the lead time now on those quick build kits?
I haven't asked lately. They've the last time I talked to them a couple of months ago, they were actually running pretty quick, as little as 3 months.
Okay.
So yeah, it's they've been going back and forth. So I think they've kind of caught up on that process for the 14s.
Yeah, I didn't know how much effect all this shutdown in the economy was having on that sector. I think they're doing pretty good, staying busy.
Yep.
Okay, hey Daryl, our WebEx host, let us see what you're doing on your RV7.
Yeah, so last month I gave an update. I got my panel and I was working on the electrical. I am pleased to report I've got almost all the electrical done. The electrical for the wings are rolled up in the seat ribs until I get the wings on it. Yesterday, Lauren came out to help me with some riveting. I got the top skin put on. Joe came out last week as a tech advisor and looked at my wiring underneath the hood before I put it on. So Joe, thank you for coming out and checking all that out for me. Lauren came out yesterday and he was on the top. I tried to convince him that the bucking bar is where the helper goes and I would be on top with the gun, but he didn't buy that. So I was actually crawling up underneath there, which, you know, if you haven't done it, it's kind of a rite of passage, right? Bucking your skin on up underneath an avionics dash. So we got that done. And as I was firing up the electrical components, I had tested each of the components And I had a short video that I had sent Miles the link to show where I actually powered everything on in the panel at once. So I don't know, Miles, if you have that queued up. It's about 1.5 minutes, where I actually powered everything on simultaneously. Everything had been tested individually. Miles, do you have that? Or Miles, you're muted. There we go.
Give it a sec. Coming up quickly.
Okay, here we are getting ready to power up the avionics for the first time. We'll see where all the smoke comes from, and that tells you what I messed up on. So with the master, we should see the primary display come on. That's a good sign. Let that boot. Now I'm inside my garage, so I'm not going to get a GPS signal. Go ahead and fire up the avionics to turn the rest of them on while that's booting. This is all looking good coming up. This is my Garmin 355. Secondary comm radio and navigator. A backup EFIS. Okay, looks like I got to configure the EMS module already configured to add a horse. She is alive. We have power to the aircraft. Okay, we're getting ready to power up the avionics for the first time. We'll see where all the smoke comes from, and that tells you what I messed up.
That's my update, Joe.
Darryl, that's awful gutsy to show us the actual, no kidding, first power up.
Yeah, well, I had them all individually powered up, small pieces at a time, checking circuits as I was wiring them, and that was the first time I turned them all on together.
Yeah, that's great. Most people stage the first one just so they make sure it all works right. Hey, another word of note, something that Darryl's doing in his spare time, besides running our conferences and building his airplane and actually going to work and paying some of our Social Security, is that he set up a YouTube channel for our chapter. So there are 2 ways to get in there. You can go to ea302.org, and at the bottom, right by where you signed in today, there's a link to the YouTube channel, or just get on YouTube itself. And the name of the channel is EAA302 Conroe with spaces. And so you can do a search there and find the YouTube channel. What he's got on there now is all of our former meetings that we've had online here. But he's also going to set it up so that if you've got videos like what he just showed us, you can get with him and he'll be able to walk you through being able to post that. And I think it'd be great to have our own chapter website like that. So first start, Ernie's showing it to you in his picture. So you can do your first start, your first flight, some of those critical things. Darryl had to make it for safety purposes, had to make it a website that only he can post the videos, but he can walk you through that process. And I think that'd be a great repository of information for our guys. So not only do we have still photos now, we can also have the videos. That's great. Thanks a lot, Darryl. Hey, Rich, we're going to move from airplanes that are under build to airplanes that are actually flying now, because you've been working with a couple of guys. Don Geis's RV7. Can you tell us about your recent flight testing on that?
Oh, okay. Let me just start off by giving a shout out to Alan Archer. He just got back from a 3-leg flight from Sheridan, Wyoming. And if anybody wants to see what the performance of a RV-10 looks like, his is an extremely good example of a great build, and that's on Flight Aware. So there's 3 legs, one from Sheridan to Sydney to Borger, Texas, back down here to Conroe. He finished it up yesterday. The second thing is just covers something I worked with Steve Haveman on his airplane, where he had an electrical problem with the alternator, and there was a lot of back and forth about the troubleshooting on the plane power alternator. And using the Savvy analysis, it was clearly identified that although the thing ran good on the ground, it would trip off in flight anytime there was any sort of a G load. So anyway, good news is that plane power stood behind it 100%, a little bit of reluctantly at first, but they sent him a brand new alternator overnight delivery, put it on, hasn't had a problem since. He'll probably send that back for forensic analysis, and it'll probably be like others that I've dealt with where they have a problem where the rotor hits the stator and shorts the thing out internally. Then the other one, Mark Buchanan, his plane is down for an engine build. We tried to do the flight testing on that one, and the performance was terrible. He had a engine that he had gotten, and when we pulled the first 2 cylinders off, both of them had different pistons in it. So 3 out of the 4 pistons were the same, and 1 was different. It was a bad build that he had initially, and anyway, he's getting all of the parts examined up in Oklahoma and going to be able to build up a good engine. Don Guy's airplane, he completed his build on his RV7. It was a hard project. That was a lot of hard work put in by both Don and Dick Stevens. And when we first flew the airplane, we had a tremendous airframe vibration problem. And we went through quite a bit looking for the source of the problem, put some cameras on the airplane. You could see the aircraft shaking. And we balanced the prop. We balanced it to a very low, amount of vibration, but it wasn't evident in the prop and the engine. And it turned out that as a Hail Mary, I used a technique that was used on RV-10s, is where we reclocked the propeller. We reclocked the propeller 60 degrees, and vibration has gone away. It's a smooth flying airplane now. We're through the flight, moving down through the flight test, getting the GRT system set up to, with all of the features working perfectly, autopilot working perfectly. We've had the airplane up to 17,000 feet indicated altitude, which turned out to be around 19,600 feet density altitude, with an average climb rate on all the way up to 262 feet per minute. So anyway, Don's plane is one of the nicest handling RVs that I've flown in recent time. It just hands off, just really good on the controls. Dick Stevens has been real good on the support of the GRT system, and the GRT system is working really great in that airplane.
Hey, thanks so much. You've been helping quite a few people. So, and Robert Skinner, I know you got him going.
Oh yeah, I mentioned, I left off Robert, right? Yeah, Robert, we got through the flight test period. His airplane's working really great. We had a problem with a 11, excuse me, a left roll characteristic with the airplane. He was flying with the stick way off to the right, and he didn't have full aileron authority in event of a crosswind with that amount of stick input that he had to do to keep the thing level. And it was the wingtips, and we put the wingtips on. We used an RV-10 alignment gauge on the aileron, and we put it on both sides. And the right wingtip was over a ½ inch low. And it was like a big aileron out there at the end of the wing. And Robert has a really, really nice airplane, and he wants it to look at least as good as Joe's. And so he went and bought another set of wingtips, and we put the second set of wingtips on, and we had for some reason, a difficult time getting that right wingtip. It seems like the mold that comes from Vans is a little bit different. Than the left side went on perfectly, lined up perfectly. The right one, we actually had to work a little bit harder to get that thing lined up perfectly. But as a result, Robert took his friend up for a flight on last Saturday, and he climbed out going towards Lufkin for 20 minutes before he realized he didn't have the autopilot on. So it's flying straight and true, and it's running really good. So yeah, Robert's airplane, except one thing, I have not seen one air conditioning system work this summer. So anyway, he's working on it. He says he's going to get it to work good, and I believe him.
I'm gonna wait till winter to turn mine on.
Yeah.
So
it was 26 degrees up at 17,500 feet, and I put the cabin heat on in Don's airplane for the first time. And I was sitting there wondering, well, my feet aren't freezing anymore, but I left it on, and at coming through 8,000 feet, I remembered to turn it off. So anyway, yeah, it was really good. Like I say, the temperature really drops as you get high.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Thanks a lot, Rich, for you get to cover a lot of different projects there. So, Miles, let's try one other video and see if we can keep the sound and everything going there together. You got pull rivet installation. So you're going to give us some good temps.
Hi, it's Mark Forrest from the EAA.
Uh-oh. Okay. Everybody get the Will's password here. Oh, darn.
Hi, it's Mark Forrest from the EAA Sport Air Workshops with another Hints for Home Builders Home Edition. If you're building a pole rivet style aircraft, a Sonex, a Zenith, an RV, as you're doing the final assembly, getting all the parts aligned up can be sometimes challenging because as you're pulling the rivets, there's sometimes slight misalignments in the holes, which creates some challenges in getting the rivet into the hole. Sometimes you have to kind of wiggle it in. Sometimes that won't work at all, and you end up having to re-drill the hole with a drill. You don't want to do that too often. Another way to do it, of course, is to use your rivet puller. In this case, I've got a hand rivet gun that I'm going to just show you how we can do that. Just kind of wiggle it in. Again, it's a little bit unwieldy, a little bit cumbersome, especially if you have a pneumatic rivet puller. So here's a tip to make a small tool that will help you get your rivets in the holes if they are slightly misaligned. Very easily done. What we do is we take a small wooden dowel. In this case, I have a scrap piece of dowel, roughly ½ an inch in diameter, something I just pulled out of the work pile. You take the dowel and then you take your drill and drill a small hole that is the same diameter as the mandrel on the rivet. So we're going to do that now. Just a simple hole. And also what you want to do is offset the hole a bit. So when you're doing this, you want to not necessarily drill into the center of the dowel, but just to the off to the side. And this will give you a bit more clearance when you have some tight spaces. So we'll put the drill bit in there like that. Drill down a depth. We'll clear the mandrel
and we're all set. You can also do this too with a drill press. Hand drill is a little bit inaccurate if you're not holding it exactly. With a drill press, you'll get more accuracy in terms of the straightness of the hole with regards to the length of the dowel. Once you have your hole in, you just simply insert the rivet, and then you can use the dowel as an extra kind of gripping tool to wiggle that rivet in so it's in place. And then we just remove that. In this case, the mandrel just kind of fell out of that rivet. So we'll try that again here. Again, putting it into the dowel and wiggling it in place. It really gives you a lot of leverage and a lot of grip as compared to, say, trying to work a rivet in with just your fingers. So we have a little more grip on that, easy to put in. Once we have the rivet in, we're set to go. We take our rivet puller, in this case my manual machine. I wouldn't want to do this for 10,000 rivets. And we're set. So another quick tip, an easy way to manipulate your rivets as you're installing your pull rivets in your Sonics, your Zenith, your RV. It just makes it a little bit easier to line up those holes that might be misaligned as you're putting those parts together for final assembly. That's another Hints for Home Builders. I'm Mark Force from the EAA Sport Air Workshops.
Hey, Miles, thanks a lot. And George, for you, you're starting an RV12 build. Anybody else that is, like he mentioned, he wouldn't want to do that 10,000 times. Actually, on our last 2 RV12s we built, you get shipped to you 15,000 LP4 rivets. Guess what? We use 15,005. So there's a lot of rivets even in a small little airplane. Miles, I believe you got an update for us on events that might be coming up. What do you have?
Give me a second. We'll load her up.
In addition, this day in aviation, you're going to follow up with. Can't wait. Oh, you can start off with that? That'd be great.
Yes. All right. This day in aviation history. You may know where that is.
It's got to be Mojave.
Groom Lake. No restricted access. Nobody goes here. 7 August 1963, and I didn't even realize this. I've been watching pictures of Blackbirds all my life, SR-71s, but I never even knew there was a prior airplane to that, which was the A-11 or the YF-12A Interceptor. The first flight was in Groom Lake, Nevada. James D. Eastham was the test pilot who flew the first flight back in 1963, built as a Mach 3 plus interceptor, and was developed from the Central Intelligence Agency Oxcart A-12 reconnaissance bird. Had a Hughes fire control system with 3 Hughes AIM-47 Falcon air-to-air missiles. 93 of them were originally ordered, but Robert McNamara refused to release the funds for them to actually be built and supplied. So only 3 of them ever made it into the air. One of them launched a Falcon missile while flying at Mach 3.2 at 74,000 feet, and it hit a target at 500 feet. So one of them was actually set a world record, 2,000 miles an hour at 80,257 sustained feet. And then actually 2 of them were lost in accidents, one on a runway and the other one the crew ejected from after an in-flight fire. And the third one's sitting in the Wright Pat Air Force Base today. So it's this day in aviation history. Upcoming in terms of events, we've got Later on this afternoon, useful rules of thumbs for aviators and how we came up. That's a webinar. You can sit in the house and look at that. 10 a.m. tomorrow, FAA safety webinar, aviation weather hazards. Also tomorrow, 7 o'clock. There's one I'm going to watch. It's stay out of tailwheel statistics. Current yearly accident review for those you that are running tailwheel aircraft. Then on Monday we've got there's a Conroe Airport board meeting. Just to give you a few more updates on what's happening around the world here. The Lone Star Flight Museum will have the Hall of Fame induction ceremony on September 2nd. And then on September 5th, 2L0 Pineville is going to have their Saturday fly-in breakfast. So there's one of the things I wanted to show you. You know, we've been doing this is, I think, our fourth meeting where we have the online stuff going on. The videos can be sometimes a little bit hard to present. Depends on data rates and what's going on in your house and my house and other places. So I wanted to show you kind of where these videos come from. That way, if you want to go pick up some of these webinars, this is a good place to go do it. Since we've gone online, EAA has been putting a lot more of the information out there. They used to send us a chapter video every month. You really couldn't go access that prior to the meeting. You could afterward, but they really only sent it to select folks in the chapter. But now they go out there and they send us a short video out to begin with, which is really just kind of news from Charlie Becker or somebody at National. And it's usually a 5-minute video, and then they put the rest of this media out here on the webpage. So you go to EAA videos, some of the stuff that we showed here in the meetings here, you can see that, and pick those videos up. Of course, it's not loading right now. The other thing I wanted to show you was the EA webinars. Here are all the upcoming webinars. So if you want to participate in webinars real time, you can go in and sign up for these. They're real easy to do. One of the ones that I want to see coming up here is this $500 HUD. So you just go put your name and your email address there, hit register. You do want to go out here and look at these, because if you want to participate and ask questions online, some of these are actually filled up, and they do fill up fairly quickly. I went to sign up for one of these the other day and couldn't get in. But otherwise, you can go in here and look at these, all of these webinars that are back in here. There's about 586 some odd webinars in here. If there's something in particular that you're interested in, put it in the search box. The search box for this search engine doesn't really work very well, but you can flip through some of these webinars in here. A lot of them are, hour plus discussions by a very competent presenter, and then a question and answer session. And some of them go quite a ways back in here, but there's a variety of information. So if you have the opportunity, go in here and look and see what these webinars are all about, and pick some out that are interesting for you.
Excellent, Miles. We're going to move on to new business and old business. I think I've got some present business actually going on. For those of you all that are out at the airport, you may know Mary Brown. She was the secretary to I call her the executive secretary. She actually ran the airport for the airport manager. Well, she just recently retired after, I believe, 27 some odd years at the airport. And her replacement named Stormy Erickson. So that's who you're going to see over at the airport office. If you own a hangar, that's who you're going to pay your lease bills to. And anyway, they said when the lockdown's over with, they're going to have some kind of formal meet and greet for Stormy. I thought that was an interesting first name for somebody in an airport, Stormy. So anyway, that's who's down there at the airport. Took Mary's place. Some other breaking news. Jerry Farrick just texted and said that actually George Goff is showing some signs of improvement today. And that's good news. So he continues to improve. A little negative side, all of y'all know Doug Nab. He's kind of had some other issues with his ongoing fight for his to keep the brain cancer from progressing. He's having some trouble with vision these days. And again, our thoughts are out for Doug and his family, his wife Terry, and all of his kids. Miles, you had something about Lincoln Tigwelder, which we actually got one once. And then Denny can tell us maybe a little bit more. I think you had a question about the tool crib reimbursement.
Yeah, so the EAA is giving away a Lincoln TIG welder. You can sign up for that. I think after November 20th, that's when the sign up closes, and then they'll pick a winner in there. I've done that online. That's your first entry. There's 3 other ways to actually enter that. So you can have up to 4 kind of names in the hat, and they're going to pick one out and get you a Lincoln 200 TIG welder. If you have a tech counselor or a flight advisor, if you have at least one of your members that's on the builder's log, which I think we've got 10 at this point. And then if you've ever had a reimbursement through the tool crib program, and I'll have to ask Denny if we've ever had that, because I don't know for certain. But anyway, we'll put our name in the hat, and if we get a Lincoln TIG welder out of the deal, it'll be good to go.
Actually, Denny, didn't we already get one of those?
Yes, we've already won the TIG welder, so I kind of doubt if we would be available for that. We did try to use the tool reimbursement when we were looking into that shear. We were trying to get a much bigger shear, but we weren't ever able to put that together with a good U.S.-made, reasonably priced shear. I'll look into have they changed the amount that they were going to reimburse? I haven't heard.
I haven't heard that either. But
I'm remembering now. It was like $300 or something that they were going to give you.
That's what it used to max out at. That's correct.
Okay.
Well, Denny, just an update on the shear. Oscar down at Aviation X, the upholstery shop, he bought himself a 48-inch shear.
Ah.
So it's not like it's open for our use, but maybe if you went down there and were nice to him and offered him some business and maybe a little handout, he might, if you've got a large project that you need to shear, I bet you could work out a deal down there.
I bet you a 6-pack of Coors would probably do it.
Could be, yeah. So anyway, he said it cost him in the range of $2,500, I think. It was okay. It was kind of the range we were looking at. So
that sounds like maybe used price, not a new one.
Not sure what it was. So anyway, he's got one of those things going.
Okay,
so, I believe that I've got all the news covered here. Anybody else have anything before we start giving money away? Okay, Miles, or actually,
Joe?
Yeah, go ahead, Brent.
This is Brent. Yeah, I was remiss in not mentioning that my transportation to and from Gadsden, that Rich Jankowski flew me in his RV-10, both to drop the airplane off and to pick it up. So he was a good friend, and it was fun flying with him.
Yeah, I believe, Rich, you did that for Alan Archer. You've made that trip quite a few times, so you should know the way now.
Yeah, it's the route is established.
I believe initial heading is 060, and 3 hours later you land, right? Okay.
Just about like that.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, let's go with the 50-50 drawing. Don, do you have the numbers for us?
I have the winning numbers. The pot wasn't that significant today. It turns out we're going to have 2 drawings of $28 apiece. The first winner was number 20 in the purchase order and number 1 in the random generator, and that's Miles. So congratulations, Miles. You're
all right.
$28 richer. The second one was number 17, which is David McDonald. He was number 2 in the order for another $28.
Excellent.
Now,
well, and
the rate of return on this for me is like 300%. I mean, it's ridiculous.
How many of you won, Miles?
That's my third in like 5 meetings. So.
I
wonder they call it a swindle.
Yeah, exactly.
The random numbers.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about the randomness. Okay, well, congratulations. And of course, we're going to hand that money out when we finally can get back together in person. That'll be a fun thing. Hopefully we can do that in September, but unfortunately I've been saying that every month. Chris, real quick, do you have an update on, I know you're at school. Well, no, you're not. You got the beard, you got the mustache going there for you. What's the Woodlands going to do for school? You're muted still. Daryl can unmute you. There you go. Oops.
Okay, I think I have to hold down the space bar maybe to keep it unmuted.
Yeah.
We are starting school with everybody just doing it online like we had in the spring this Wednesday. And students can choose to come to school for some or all of their classes starting September 8th, I think it is. And so for our program in junior RTC, we have a little over half, I think, are going to come in person once we're back in person, and some are still going to be doing online. So we kind of have to manage twice the number of classes essentially. So it's going to be a really weird situation. But on the flying front, I've got my first flight review this afternoon. And then if you recall, Will Pluto, who's been active when he can be in the chapter, he has the Junior RTC Flight Academy Fellowship that got deferred to next summer. Well, he didn't want to do just nothing this summer, so he went ahead and got his Part 107 UAS license, just passed the test, I think, a week ago.
Excellent. Good. Well, and I kind of wanted to hear what the schools were doing. Everybody hears all kinds of information, just to kind of give us some guidance on what we're going to do as a chapter. So I know most of the schools aren't starting live until after September. It seems like it's kind of a failed experiment every time they just say that let's get back together. Major League Baseball's had problems, and so we'll see where we can go, but hopefully we can get back together. But in the meantime, we can see each other at the airport, I think.
It's put a damper on the Young Eagles program, because I was planning on flying a bunch of kids over the summer, but just given that we're not having a lot of interaction and we're supposed to wear masks and social distance officially with the kids, just doesn't sound like it's going to happen for at least several weeks.
Yeah. It's slowed down all that kind of stuff. So like I said, our main thing is staying together, keeping our community going, interacting, give people calls. Let me know about any other people that members of our chapter that may be having some medical issues. Let's stick together as best as we can. So unless anybody else has any more information, it's 10 after 11. We've used up our time. I think it's time to call this an adjournment. Denny's waving goodbye.
One of the draws for the picture on the website, or are we in?
There wasn't enough. I think, Don, there wasn't enough money, right? Don Guy sitting hearing it. Yeah, he said the. Go ahead.
Our pot this time was pretty low, so I think we'll just defer that. This is probably the lowest pot that I've seen in several years.
Yeah, well, understandable. I don't think it's for lack of enthusiasm. It's just that everybody's itching to get back together in person. So we'll see when we can do that. So, and Miles, thanks for picking a day in aviation based on my birthday. So I just finished the birthday yesterday, but we're not talking about years. So, okay. Until I see you at the airport or next month. Again, Denny will let everybody know in the newsletter, which Miles sends out, the latest status of the meeting. And that'll come out, of course, on the Monday before the next meeting, which should be September the 8th, I believe. One of those Septembers. I don't have my calendar in front of me. Actually, September the 12th is that date. So we'll get it out in the newsletter the week before. And until then, see you later.
Thanks, everybody.